Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins and Demons of Chaos. It's going to be myself with the Goblin Great Shaman on the big Arachnarok Spider, facing off against Subutai, who's going to be rocking the Tzeentch Lord. Looks like it's going to be a Lord of Change, most likely with Blue Fire and or Pink Fire spam. Very scary stuff, and it is going to be a duel of fates. Now, as far as my army goes, we do have a front line of Orc Boys. Orc Boys are shielded and decent combat stats. They're going to hold their own against Demonic Infantry and at least have some mitigation against the Tzeentchian shooting and other missile attacks that can come. So that is going to be those boys. And in the secondary row, I know that, these are very popular. These Lords of Change are a pretty common pick, and Flying Lords are usually going to be around when you're facing Demons of Chaos. So having a core of mobile missile cavalry just to keep them honest and float underneath them and poke, I think is very, very strong. So we have a couple Spider Riders, one of which is going to be the Death's Creepers. Now, for the Lord choice, it is going to be the Goblin Great Shaman on the Spider. Now, I almost went with the cheaper version because if you did go with like the Goblin Great Shaman on foot, for example, you would be able to have a much bigger army. You'd have like 4 or 5 more units. But I know that Tzeentch is really good at sniping squishy lords. So if I had him on foot, for example, and there's a Lord of Change using Blue Fire and hunting him down, I felt like he would die very quickly. And this thing's tanky as hell. 120 armor plus 9,000 HP. So it's going to take a lot of Blue Fires and a lot of Focus Fire to kill this bad boy. So I felt as if that was safer against Demons of Chaos. In a lot of matchups where they're not going to be as good at Lord sniping, I would probably go with the foot version with the new Greenskins, after Wurzag was nerfed, of course. But in this matchup, I think that the Spider isn't a terrible choice. On top of that, we have a secondary line of Orc Air Boys, and that's going to be it. And they're really good. I don't know what it is about Greenskin Archers. I suppose, the fact that they're in loose formation, and they have relatively decent armor piercing values considering their overall stats. Like, 6 AP is not bad. Like, they just seem to trade well into most targets, and they're pretty formidable in melee, too. With 23 melee attack and 34 weapon strength, if they get, attacked by, a blue horror or something, they can actually fight back a little bit. So for Subutai's army, it is going to be the Shrieking Sky Rays. These things are very meta because their little missile attack thing they have, the Lamprey's Bite, actually does some very respectable damage. And up in the sky, it is going to be, like I said, Lord of Change with a Pink Fire, actually. So just going to be going for infantry killing, which is very good. You basically just use it to kill the archers. But another advantage of the Orc Boys, the loose formation makes them take a little bit less damage in my experience. And the rest of the core army is going to be almost all the colors of the rainbow. It's just going to be Exalted Plague Bearers with the Festering Stooges, and then a combination of pinks and blues. So Korn is sitting at home crying, a little bit sad that he wasn't invited to the party, but he will come out with his Fleshhounds eventually. That's usually what you see. You see the best of every demon faction, right? Plague Bearers are incredibly good. Blues and pinks are both good units, and then Fleshhounds are incredibly solid with Plague Toads. That's usually the amalgamation of units that you do see. So big man landing back here, going after the Orc Air Boys, and he might be able to take a couple down. We'll see. He just kind of trots through them and takes a little bit of arrow fire, and overall probably going to be losing his shield. So you can see that the Orc missile fire certainly is no joke, immediately forcing this bad boy back. And I was going to do a square engagement against him, but I saw that he had the Festering Stooges up here. So what my game plan was to rotate downwards a little bit towards Objective 2 and towards Objective 3 and see if we could really, really shine there. The Exalted Lord of Change going to be flying away. There's a Pink Fire, does a little bit of damage against my Skirmishers and my Orc Air Boys. And on the backside, we do send the 8-peak Loonies. So these guys are very sneaky, and they're able to move up on the point. So hopefully they'll be able to grab this and get us a very secured objective number 3. 8-peak Loonies do have the Fanatics, which is very good against Plague Bearers and good quality units. Now we get some Fury summons coming in. So these are summons. They're not actual Fury, so they will be disappearing, but still a little bit of time before they do disappear. And now the frontline skirmishing has begun. So we're going to be using a Vindictive Glare there. I don't know how useful it is against Plague Bearers and whatnot, but I just wanted to try it because I haven't really used the spell in a long time. But the Goblin Archers and the Orc Air Boys putting some really good hurt into the Exalted Plague Bearers here, which is great value for us. So just kind of kiting back a little bit, trying not to commit to the engagement. Meanwhile, though, on the other side, Subutai does get a good engagement, breaks my Orc Air Boys, and doesn't take really any damage for it. His shields are able to hold, and the Chaos Furies will be disappearing here in a couple seconds, but still, they got the job done, so that's got to feel pretty good. Another Pink Fire coming down as the Daka moves in from the Orc Boys and the Orc Air Boys. Pink Fire getting into the Orc Boys, but their Bronze Shield should be able to mitigate some of that damage with some efficiency. Meanwhile, Dirked Swighoppers are called in, and they do intercept these Chaos Furies, which I guess had a second duration. I thought that was their first wave here, but he's trying to keep them from getting on all my archers and whatnot. But Missile Fire, a little bit of a concave of firepower. We do have the Night Goblin Archers as well as our 3 mobile archer units, which are putting big damage into the Exalted Plague Bearers here, and I was thinking about moving the Spider in as well. It's a decent fighter, it's designed against large targets, but it does apply poison, which I always felt like Nurgle units should be immune to poison. It's kind of a silly thing. Nurgle literally probably came up with those poisons, so it's kind of strange that his followers would suffer the maladies of it. Would that be OP if Nurgle units were immune to poison? I feel like it's a niche mechanic as is. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it'd be a big deal. It'd be kind of cool thematically too. So Durkit Squigs battling it out with Fleshhounds. A little bit unfortunate. I did miss the charge, so the Fleshhounds are going to win that fight, but I do call in some Forest Goblin Spider Riders and Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, both of which should be able to outmuscle these. And now we have some Orc Boys trying to move into the secondary lines, but he does call in some Plague Toads to try and mitigate that effectiveness. Meanwhile, it's just absolute chaos. When you're watching Greenskin games, it just looks like anarchy. But here in the middle, the trading is going well. Our Archer line really punishing that elite unit, but on this side, we did send in some Orc Boys to try and hold back the tide of demonic pressure, but that didn't work out so well. The Plague Bearers and Pinks and Blues were able to punish those bad boys, but we do get 2 objectives here, and the Big Chicken comes in to try and support the Fleshhounds, but the Squig Hoppers should be able to push back those doggos with the help of the Forest Goblin Spider Riders. And you see, this is what I'm talking about, like having this mobile core, like wherever his Big Chicken goes, I can follow him and put some pressure on him and force him out of positions. Otherwise, like, if I had to fight through this guy in melee while he was standing on top of demon units, it would just be very, very ugly, right? But we do break the Fleshhounds. Managing to hold on to objective 2 is the AP Gloonies, so the AP Gloonies have moved in. And though Toads are a decent tool against them with their bonus versus infantry, AP Gloonies also pack a bit of a punch and should be able to give it back to these Plague Toads with a little bit of archer support. So here in the back, you can see we are getting our Spider Riders to put a little bit of firepower into those Plague Toads. Meanwhile here, it's absolute anarchy. So Orc Boys are just squaring up, getting ready to meet them in combat. We call in some Error Boys, which are shooting into the side of the Festering Stooges, which is huge value for us. If we can bring down those Festering Stooges and not let them get that much melee value, that's going to be very big for us. Spider, he does have a cool bound ability as well. He has the Don't Even Try It, which has been pretty useful against the Chicken. It does increase our cooldowns also, so we've been using that pretty much every single chance we get. So our secondary wave of reinforcements have arrived. It is going to be Orc Biggins, but they're certainly getting rained on by these Zinch firepower, but their anti-large attacks will be incredibly strong against these Plague Toads, so I'm hoping that before all is said and done, the Biggins are going to be able to move through the Plague Toads, but we'll see. Also, something else to note about the Biggins, they did get a cost reduction in the recent patch, so a little bit more cost effective now for sure. A couple Orc Warboy Biggins called in to help deal with the Plague Toads, as well as the Shrieking Skyrays, big Archer firepower concaving in and wearing down the Festering Stooges. Meanwhile, the Wah goes down in the valley, very, very pissed off, and a big Greenskin flank is now going to be moving in. Excuse me. So here comes the Squig Herds. They got the Wah, their melee attack is pumped up, they're immune to psychology, and their armor piercing's a little bit wasted here, but they're still just so cost effective at their current point value. And now the Squigs are going to move in, hopefully popping these little popcorn bandits, and you can immediately see some big damage. But Subutai responds well. He turns around the Blues and also calls in the Chromatic Abominations, which have some really good firing power, and is going to be able to probably push those off. But now we do get our Spider also in the backfield. So the Spider is able to find the Chicken that was disrupting the Archers. And sometimes the Chicken, yeah, these like weird flying interactions between SCs in this game, it's very strange. But the Spider is definitely punishing this bird. Its Howdah is shooting little poison attacks, and its anti-large is obviously going to be very, very strong there. But this is a problem for the Demons. The fact that my Archer line is still online, even to a very haggard extent, they're all pretty beat up, but it's still 68 Archers here and 53 here. We do have our Spider Riders moving through, a little bit of ammo left on those bad boys. This fight has gone very well for us. The Sour Guts, the Pink Horrors have been taken down by the Squig Hoppers, and the Orc Biggins were able to get on top of the Plague Toad, so that fight is starting to turn in our favor a little bit. As we maneuver across, I was trying to get us around on the Chicken. I was moving these Forest Goblins to try and get ahead of him to make sure he couldn't get up in the sky, but he does end up moving into his own units here. And then, like, after not being able to take off for, like, a good minute, he just suddenly jumps up in the sky. You're going to see this in a second here. And boom, like, even being in melee contact, it was a very weird interaction we had there. But that's Total War for you. It's always a little bit janky. As far as value goes, though, we're pretty massively ahead. A lot of the big fancy Plague Bear units are just getting disintegrated and taking down my missile fire, and the Wah just still pounding into the valley. Orc Warboy Biggins as well as regular Biggins advancing up all over the place, and we're just out-muscling them in most areas. Like our cost-effective Greenskin infantry after the cost reductions, our Lord has been pretty effective. He's been moving around, and taking down the big centerpiece of Zinch is huge, right? You can see this Chicken here is on death's bed. He's at 2,000 HP, and we've been using Vindictive Glares pretty much non-stop. I don't know what it is about that spell, but it does a hell of a lot of damage. It only costs 4 wins of magic. I think if you overcast it, it costs around 8, but you can see we turn here. This bird is sitting at 1,900 HP, and now he's down to about 1,400, which isn't bad. So that's about 500 damage, which is respectable. Waves and waves of reinforcements coming in. Squig Herds do come back from the shadows. Some Orc Boys coming up to reinforce, and probably not going to be much for the Demons to do here. They get absolutely crushed on this side, and they do have some trickling in reinforcements of Pinks, but Pinks are probably going to get cut to pieces by the Orc Biggins, whose armor should be able to hold well enough to get them in close range here. Archers are moving up, and you can see mass crumbling in the backfield for the Demons, so all these bad boys are being sent off to the Shadow Realm. Meanwhile, the big bird is going to be running, but he's not going to be long for this world. The Goblin Great Shaman's just going to keep punishing him with vindictive glares. You'll see another one going down here in just a second, and that bad boy starts to crumble, and it is going to be a triple cap. So I know a lot of people said Greenskins are dead, and they're going to be terrible. I was seeing that when the Wurzag nerfs. They're like, oh my god, Greenskins are dead. They're going to be a dog shit faction now, but you know, if you saw that recent SFT yesterday, Greenskins were the top two factions, very, very dominant in a lot of their games that they were played in, and honestly, I think the faction is going to be very strong even after the nerfs, because they did receive some buffs in tandem with that. And yeah, they have very cost-effective archers, good infantry, good skirmishers, good cavalry. I mean, they're very, very good mixed arms faction that can do a lot of different things. They have good lord sniping if they want to. They have good sustained fighting. Leadership can be a little bit of an issue with them for sure. Like if you can get really good, you know, terror positions on them and wear them down with, you know, like Empire, for example, using grenade launchers, Knights of the Blazing Sun, like Shock Cav can definitely punish them. But Orc Warbo Biggins do counter a lot of heavy Cav play too. So yeah, it's fun. I'm excited to see how they develop and these different strategies that are going to be emerging. Like in the tournament, I lost against like a double, what was that build? It was double, not Screaming. I guess the Goblins are technically Screaming. Doomdiver Catapult plus a giant build with the Goblin Great Shaman. I think he's going to be meta. He's very cost effective and his magic is good. I could see Azag seeing some play in some matchups too, because he's a good fighter and has a good lore of magic. So yeah, we'll see. Grimgor, foot combat characters, unless they have like crazy sustainability, just often suck. Like the ones that are good, like look at good foot characters, right? They're the ones that heal. So if you're looking at Sigvald, you're looking at Eocold, like that's really, they need that sustainability. Maybe, do you just want to give like every foot character healing? I don't know if that's a good idea, right? It's just kind of like lame, but yeah, it kind of is a determining factor. Or they have to have like an insanely powerful ability. That's the other one. And Grimgor doesn't have like any of that. So I guess like Get Over Here isn't bad, but like it's pretty hard for him to catch anything on the ground that really doesn't want to be caught if you're playing against good players. Looking at value real quick, Goblin Great Shaman ended up getting about 2k value, which isn't bad. Skirmishers did good. I would imagine some of the archers did fine. The value is spread out, and looking at the demonic army, Plague Bears kind of got roasted. Yeah, they got cooked. 600 and 387, so certainly not the best for them. All right, guys, GG, well played. We'll see you on the other side. Take care of yourselves, and yeah, Greenskins are back, baby.